This video is brought to you by NVIDIA and the new MSI GS76LT 30 series laptop. Stick around to the end of the video to learn more about how NVIDIA's and MSI's next-gen hardware can transform the way you play. Alright, so I'm not here to piss in anyone's cornflakes. I'm certainly not here to spoil anyone's fun or excitement for Battlefield 2042. I like Battlefield. I went into this beta excited about what I've seen, the trailers, the gameplay snippets, the overall tone and positioning of 2042. It really seems to lean into those absolutely insane Battlefield moments that are only possible in a sandbox this large, this populated, and this responsive. 2042 is DICE saying, "Let Battlefield be Battlefield." That's a West Wing reference. Probably a little cringe, but I don't care. I spent about 15 to 20-ish hours with the beta now. I got invited to a pre-event for content creators, and then I played a bunch of it on PC, and then I switched over to Xbox Series X, and I finished up on the Xbox One X. As I said, I went into this pretty pumped and hyped, but I walk out very worried. You will have no doubt heard about some of the technical readiness of this beta. To put it charitably, it runs poorly on PC and not well at all on next-gen consoles. It's full of bugs, netcode is horrible, and audio design is a mix of buggy and bad. As for last-gen console performance, I mean, if the final release is anything close to what I experienced in the beta, then I sure as hell will not be recommending that anyone pick this up on last gen. I'm aware of the line that this beta is a few months old, yada yada, the same thing every single developer says during any buggy beta, only for the game to launch 3 weeks later with all the same bugs and issues present. I'm not saying DICE are lying. I'm sure this is an old build. I'm sure they have fixed some of the issues. I'm just saying that I've never seen any game that was in such rough shape during its beta phase suddenly cross that vast distance to being a sparkling, pristine launch product on day one. And you've never seen it either because it's never happened. The issues here are too profound and too numerous to give me confidence that this product will be ready to ship in a month. But there's a first time for everything, and maybe DICE can pull a rabbit out of their hat, but I certainly wouldn't be betting my pre-order money on it. What you may not have heard about yet, and what I think is actually more concerning than the technical stuff, are some of the design choices that DICE have made here. The removal of combat factions, the removal of dedicated classes in favor of specialists, the balancing of those individual specialists, the removal of any squad-based communication and cooperation systems, the decision to include AI bots and the way they function. These are all very big problems, and this is just the stuff that everyone, without exception, agrees is bad. Then there's the more subjective stuff like map design, revised player mobility, on-the-fly weapon modding, and tons more. To cap it all off, there are so many missing features here that Battlefield fans have enjoyed in the past, and their absence is so head-scratching. Small things like grenade indicators and leaning out of cover to big things like full-scale structured destructibility. You'd be forgiven for thinking that this is the debut of a new IP for DICE. You don't look at any part of it and think, oh well, that is building on all the work they've done in the previous games. Very little of it feels like iterative improvement over what came before, and many parts of it feel like a straight downgrade versus what Battlefield fans can currently enjoy by simply booting up Battlefields 3 through 5. Despite all of that, I did have fun with these 15 to 20-ish hours. This is a larger departure from the traditional Battlefield formula than I was expecting, and I know that's already rubbing some fans the wrong way, but I think there's a lot of ideas here that could really pay off in the long term. DICE are putting their sandbox front and center, giving players more tools and freedom than ever before to be able to make thrilling, only in Battlefield moments happen. Battlefield 2042 is not trying to be immersive, it's trying to be fun. And I think it's succeeding, but profound technical issues, the baffling design choices, and the myriad missing features lead me to think that Battlefield 2042 will not only need more time in development, but a lengthy post-launch rework phase to get this thing into shape. I hope I'm wrong about this, but I really can't see how this will be worth your $60 come launch day. Let's talk about technical stuff first. I tested Battlefield 2042 on 4 systems, an RTX 3080, an RTX 2080 Ti, an Xbox Series X, and an Xbox One X. On the 3080, Battlefield 2042 was okay-ish. I ran it at 1440p high settings, and it was generally getting around 90 FPS. If I pushed it to ultra settings, it was getting around 70 FPS. Thing is, when I dropped all my settings to low, I still sat at around 90 FPS. I could not push out more frames no matter how hard I tried, so that already told me that there were some optimization issues there. The average frame rate isn't as concerning as frame stability. Very regularly, the game would chug down to around about 50 frames. This is a big problem for a shooter like Battlefield that is reliant on split-second reaction. On a high-end rig, I could never rely on Battlefield to feel crisp and responsive because its frame drops were so frequent that they made the experience feel unresponsive and sluggish. Same thing goes for the 2080 Ti. I also ran that at 1440p. I had to set that to medium settings, which got me an average of around 70 frames with regular frame drops down to 40 frames a second. And again, dropping settings to low didn't give me additional average frames or frame stability. Two important things to note here. Number one, DLSS was not yet enabled in this build. That typically does provide a pretty hefty stability uplift, so I do expect that PC stability will improve. Offsetting that though is the fact that ray tracing was not enabled in this build. I think that we're at a point now where it's not unreasonable to expect ray tracing in our next-gen games, and the current PC performance doesn't leave any headroom for that, so if DLSS was enabled, its benefits would likely be erased by the cost of ray tracing. So right now, I really can't see how we're going to make ray tracing happen on any rig currently with this optimization. After PC, I headed to Xbox Series X. This thing is targeting 4K 60 FPS, with that 4K being dynamic resolution. I have to say the resolution did hold up. There weren't any obvious instances where the game scaled down to like 900p, no blurriness or anything like that. It looked nice. Frame rate was pretty good. There were definitely frame drops, but they were far less frequent than they were on PC. Without a doubt, Series X is definitely more stable and more reliable than the PC build at the moment. What you do get on Xbox though is flickering. I really don't remember any game doing flickering for a long time. And even back in the old days, like I don't remember it being quite this egregious. This was so much that I just had a really bad time playing this because it would occur so often. It was distracting and immersion breaking and just really bad. Then it was onto the Xbox One X, the Pro version of the last gen console. This was awful. This is targeting 30 FPS, and that frame rate held pretty solid, but the frame pacing just felt bad. The whole thing feels sluggish, and it looks like so many frames are missing in character and vehicle animations. The biggest price that last gen hardware pays is in texture load times and pop-up. As you can see here, going anywhere results in a significant amount of texture pop-in in the distance, and this is super distracting since you're constantly looking at this stuff and asking, is that someone moving? But it's not, it's just a fucking tree appearing. Pop-in also occurs on ground foliage even when you're really close to it. Everywhere you go, you'll notice that textures look really blurry from afar, and as you get close to them, they won't load in unless you fixate on them like this. Many textures will take upwards of 5 seconds to fully load, like that one did. Then there's the general low-res textures, particularly as it relates to destruction. So it's clear to me that however Frostbite is handling destruction here, it wasn't fully optimized for last gen. You can see here a destroyed car. It looks like shit. Not because of the explosion, by the way. The textures look totally arse. These look like those other textures that are taking a long time to load, but this one just never loads. The real issue with destruction though is how it handles debris. Here's how Frostbite does it on last gen consoles. So yeah, as you can see, that is not good. Look, I get that this is next-gen hardware, but I'm really not sympathetic to that point. Like, they're charging $100 US or whatever for the ultimate edition of this on last-gen consoles, right? You shouldn't be getting a game that looks like this. It's on DICE and EA to deliver a functional last-gen Battlefield 2042, and right now, I wouldn't touch this version with a 10-foot pole, and I didn't even test it on the base Xbox One model, so I have no idea how that's going to turn out. As an aside, EA have been generous enough to invite you to purchase the more expensive next-gen version of the game, which will be backwards compatible. They could have offered you an optional $10 upgrade path for when you do want to buy it later on, but no, they cleverly offered you the opportunity to spend more now, just in case you need it. Thanks Andy, great work there. Have another bonus, mate. No matter what platform you'll play on, you are going to encounter a lot of bugs, animation glitches, audio glitches, and netcode issues. Animation glitching is really the worst part of it, and this was the part that was most disruptive and immersion shattering for me. Here you can see this guy landing through the terrain and then glitching up.
Enemy down!
Parachutes are in fact really buggy. Here you can see dudes landing on the roof, but because the parachute's bugged, me and everyone else knows they're up there and we can just start shooting at them and lobbing grenades. Here I am as a recon, and I'm trying to use my drone, but it's actually bugging out here and it won't let me use it, but eventually I can, and when I do, I see that my parachute is still somehow out above me. Okay, I guess. You're gonna see a lot of frozen dudes standing around. I counted probably a dozen in my playtime. Just characters frozen in place doing random things. It's super annoying because sometimes you would shoot at them and that would give away your position and then you would die. That was always great fun. There are a lot of teleporting enemies. This is probably the best clip to showcase it. Here you can see the enemy exits the vehicle like 10 meters away from the vehicle, clipping into the terrain, and then he just sort of magically teleports back. This clip here is similar. Here an AI enemy is just teleporting in and out of the car. Because there aren't any entry or exit animations for vehicles in Battlefield 2042, this stuff is going to happen a lot because it's all just netcode dependent and the netcode is very bad. Oh yeah, and there's also plenty of ragdolling going on as well. This one too, I mean, look at this clip. We've got some great flicker, we've got some ragdolling, and I get killed by an identical looking specialist. This clip really has it all. Explosion and wreckage animations are extremely glitchy. Here you can see what is essentially a stop motion showcase as this tank explodes. A similar thing happens here with this Osprey explosion, and then I get in nice and close to take a look at the textures on this one since this was captured on Xbox One X. Okay, so you know those clips on the internet of all those UFOs doing those impossible aeronautical maneuvers? Well, Battlefield has those UFOs as well. I captured a lot more of this event, but I can't find that footage now. Just trust me when I tell you that this is actually the default event that occurs with any flying vehicle when it gets too far away from you. You no longer track its regular position, instead you're fed these periodic updates, so the plane or the helicopter is just teleporting all around the sky. Anytime you're on a moving object, there are problems. The elevator is a good example. Here's how it looks. Vehicles suffer the same issues, though it manifests differently. Jittering. Often you'll get into a vehicle and the animation jitter is so severe that it makes it impossible to shoot the weapons you're in control of. Going prone is so bad that I kind of held my breath and hoped for the best every time I did it. Often I would get this animation desync, resulting in both jittering and my hand being where it definitely was not supposed to be. Sometimes I would load into a map and there just wouldn't be anything there, like this. In terms of overall netcode, it's not good. There's so much rubber banding going on. I didn't tag a lot of that because it's kind of hard to spot as you're scrubbing through footage, but this example here is what I'm talking about. It just happens all the fucking time. This also impacts hit registration, which is definitely a problem. Again, hard to showcase, but here's a good example. I mean, I hit this dude. I hit him, but apparently I didn't. Happens way more often than it should, and also melee animations and hit detection are kind of whack. Then there's the audio issues. Man, really hard to know where to start here. So from a basic soundscape perspective, there's something wrong here. Like, you're on a battlefield with 127 other people, and most of the time, the game sounds like this. That does not sound like you are on a battlefield. Everything sounds so muted and so distant. Like, this zone right here is actually in the middle of all of the action, and it's almost silent. You'd think that they did this to create more space in the immediate soundscape so you can hear enemy footsteps or grenades or weapon fire more clearly, but you really can't. In fact, it's really hard to use the game audio to react to stuff, despite the fact that there's apparently a binaural option in the menu which promises a more immersive soundscape. I'm not alone in this perspective, by the way. This is pretty universal feedback. Then there's just the number of missing sounds. Like, listen to this clip. Okay, so let's go back. This is the sound of a helicopter that weighs a few dozen tons smacking down hard on a landing pad. And this is the sound of that helicopter taking off. That takeoff sound is like, it's fucking idling. Like, that is not how a helicopter sounds when it is taking off. Then there's stuff like this, where object destruction doesn't have an accompanying sound effect. Then there's just the straight up bugged sounds that stop working altogether, like these. Sound is super underbaked in both its core design, its utility, and its technical polish. This is one of those things that I suspect will need a rework of sorts post-launch. The things I've listed in this section are just the big ticket items that are really hard to fix. Animation, collision detection, netcode, sound design. These aren't like a few lines of code, a few Jira points and we're done. Each of these things are pretty massive and they take a long time to get right. On top of all of those big issues are a whole bunch of little things, like there's a delay when you deploy or pick up items, or your weapon mods don't save and you need to reapply them every time you respawn, or grenades throw twice if you use the quick throw option on controller, or you can't call in vehicles sometimes for no particular reason, or you can't use the recon drone inside for some reason, or this awesome bunny hopping glitch that people have discovered, and just so much more. It's honestly full of bugs, and you know they'll eventually fix them, sure, but like, why aren't they fixed now? We're a month from launch. You might think that I've just cherry-picked examples here to put this video together. I really encourage you to ask around your mates, social media, whatever. This is not a fringe perspective. Everyone is experiencing these issues in one way or another. Maybe it's not as bad for you. That's cool, I'm glad. But it's bad for enough people that this isn't just whinging or nitpicking. Even if this beta build was a few months old, which I believe that it is, this is still not nearly enough time to fix all of the issues that I alone encountered. And that's putting aside some of the design choices, which are not good. Battlefield 2042 is a very large departure from the traditional Battlefield formula in a number of ways. It is far more solo play oriented, it is faster, it has a completely different approach to verticality, and it is far less concerned with authenticity and immersion. I'm not going to discuss a lot of the more subjective issues that people have with this revision because frankly, I think it's too early to pass judgment on that stuff. Many people are like, this isn't real Battlefield, this is Warzone meets Apex meets Titanfall, this is casual field, etc. I'm not saying these people are wrong, I'm just saying that we need to see the full game with all its maps and specialists and game modes and Portal. We need to see all of that stuff before talking about whether or not DICE's vision is a good one for the franchise. Like I said, this is very different and I'm having fun with it on its terms, and if DICE have a lot of impressive stuff that they're holding in reserve, then this could be great. Very different from previous Battlefield games, but still good. What I think we can discuss now are some of the more universally agreed problems with 2042. The UI, the AI, the specialist system, and the missing features. The UI, okay. I've seen some doozies in my time. This one might take the cake. I mean, look at this screen. What is this? What is this? Why is it so large and weird looking and garish and orange and blue, and it's full of all this shit information that I don't care about, and it doesn't have a goddamn scoreboard. All I want to know is, how's everybody doing? And I literally can't see it because scoreboards are toxic in 2021, I guess. There's also the general difficulties associated with map markers. It's actually quite tricky to see which points have been captured or are being captured because the UI will collapse certain distant markers together for some reason. Oh, and there's also no map at the moment. Like, you know, that little used, unimportant feature that wasn't in this build. I mean, who needs a map anyway? Like, who needs a map in a Battlefield game? So unimportant. Plus, there's this thing that drops down from the top of your screen whenever you gain or lose a majority of capture points, and it's so distracting and so obnoxious that it's already become a meme in the Battlefield community. Much like the game's sound design, the UI and the HUD really do need a total rework, and this game isn't even out yet. The AI, okay, let's meet some of our AI buddies now. So this is them riding a quad bike. I intervene to see if the other dude behind him was any smarter. Sadly, he was not. In case you didn't know, Battlefield 2042 is 128 players on next-gen consoles and PC. Foreseeing that it might be tough to pack out full lobbies, DICE added AI bots. There can be any number of them. I think that these are terrible and that they should be removed from the game. They are so spectacularly dumb. They are just fodder for you to rack up free kills, and I don't play Battlefield or any shooter for that matter to play really dumb bots. I would rather they close off sections of the map when lobbies are too small than pad out the game with dumbass bots. And if you are going to have bots, at least make them smart. Go and play Halo Infinite's Spartan difficulty bots. They will fuck you up. The behavior of those bots is as good as or better than some humans. That is how you do bots. This is definitely not. The specialists. Okay, so this topic is like a whole 20-minute video in itself, so forgive me for skipping over a lot of detail here, but this video is already pretty long. Long story short, Battlefield games have always been built on a number of things, including distinct classes and the squad play that emerges from class synergy. Each class would have a distinct combination of weapons and gadgets that make them a unique addition to a squad. Someone that could fight up close with an SMG or a shotgun, someone who could hang back with a sniper, someone who specialized in bringing down enemy armor or supplying ammo, or someone that could heal and revive, etc. The only way to be truly successful was to rely on your squad, because you couldn't do everything on your own. In time, DICE would lean into this class synergy further, adding all sorts of social systems to encourage squad play. Stuff like emotes to ask teammates for ammo, squad leaders who could issue commands, squad scoring bonuses that would give you bonus points for following orders or working together to achieve objectives. Everyone loved this stuff. No one at any point ever said, "I really hope they delete classes and squads from the game." So Battlefield 2042 basically deletes classes and squads from the game. Instead of classes with specific weapon and gadget restrictions, you now have specialists. They're hero classes with unique backstories, like they're a fucking Overwatch character or something. And they come with one baked-in ability and no restrictions whatsoever on their weapons or gadgets. If you want to run the recon dude with an SMG and a rocket launcher, you can do that. If you want your medic to be rocking an LMG and armor plating, go for it. This change has had such a destructive impact on so many aspects of the game. Typically, when I play Battlefield, I like to fill, meaning I like to look at my squad and ask, what are we missing? Do we have anyone providing ammo? Do we have anti-tank, etc.? I literally can't do that now. The UI in the deploy screen doesn't tell me which gadgets my squad members are running, and I don't know if all of them have ammo kits or none of them do. Spoiler, none of them do, because everyone is running around with anti-air rockets. In my 15 hours, I think I counted maybe 3 ammo packs on the ground, maybe 2 med stations. Everyone was just doing their own thing because they couldn't make smart selections during that deployment screen. And then there's the complete erasure of the squad systems that support all this. There's no more squad leaders, no more emotes to ask for ammo or heals. There's no squad bonus points to incentivize you to work together. That's all just gone. There's not even squad chat, though I think that is coming later, but who knows. Then there's the balancing of the individual specialists. The medic is so useless. I thought her syringe would be a ranged revive, but it's not. It's just a shitty heal, and everyone heals up so fast anyway, so there's no need for it. The recon drone is okay, but you have to collect it every time you're done with it, while the engineer just gets to pull turrets straight out of his ass on cooldown, so that seems kind of unfair. The grapple is by far and away the most powerful ability in the game right now. So everyone is just running around with the dude that looks like the scout from Team Fortress, because why wouldn't you? You can choose him, choose whatever weapon you like, whatever gadget you like, you just grapple up somewhere and farm kills. Why wouldn't you do that? The most serious issue with the squad system is this clip right here. I need to reload. What I haven't mentioned to this point is that specialists aren't tied to factions. So if I'm playing as the US forces and I'm fighting the Russians, I'm fighting enemies that look exactly the same as me. The only thing that denotes that they are an enemy is this tiny little dot that they have above their head that can be either blue for friend or orange for foe. So in this clip, you saw what happens 90% of the time you encounter anyone on the battlefield. You just start shooting because you don't know if they're friend or foe. When I'm close to anyone like this, I can't see this fucking dot. So like Danny DeVito, I just start blasting. The specialist system is so bad that you cannot tell which weapons or gadgets your teammates are running. You can't size up an enemy by their silhouette to know which weapons or gadgets they're likely packing. You can't tell friend from foe because everyone is wearing the same thing. It's genuinely mind-blowing to know that this made it through years of playtesting at DICE and wasn't called out as a game-breaking issue. Right now, the Battlefield community is looking forward to the Portal mode so that they can sidestep all of this and go play classes from previous Battlefield games. That is how bad the specialist system is. The thing about all of these things, the UI, the HUD, the AI bots, the specialist, the sound design, all of these are really complex systems, and in the case of the specialist, they are deeply baked into the core of this game's DNA. You can't make quick changes to this. It requires huge amounts of dev work and in-house testing. Don't think that DICE can wave a magic wand and fix this stuff before launch. Don't even think that they can fix it in 3 months or 6 months. And this is sort of one of the main points I want to get across in this video. Not only does Battlefield have myriad crippling technical issues across all platforms, but it also has some very intractable design issues that will each themselves require some level of overhaul and rework. Like, it's already clear that the specialist system cannot remain in its current state, and the work to dig the game out of the hole created by specialists is a major undertaking. There's so many more points that I could make in this video, but in the interest of time, I just want to direct you to this video uploaded by a Reddit user by the name of Green My Man. You might have seen it, it's been doing the rounds. It highlights how many features are missing from Battlefield 2042. And they aren't small, nitpicky things, by the way. Many of these things are big things. Movement animations like rolling and crouch sprinting and supine stance, leaning out of cover, the entire destruction engine being way less responsive and impressive this time around, the squad spawn screen, as well as a whole bunch of stuff that I've mentioned in this video. You can't watch this video and not feel a little sad by how much 2042 has regressed. Its combat sandbox is larger, but its gameplay and social systems, its attention to detail, are all so much less impressive than any Battlefield title I can recall playing. Let me finish by reiterating this fact. I did have fun with this. I wanted a new modern era Battlefield. I was on board with DICE's over-the-top, unrestrained vision of a sandbox tailor-made to create clip-worthy only in Battlefield moments. I think that this has the potential to be that game. I'm still regularly overawed by 2042, both by the stage spectacle and by the player-created moments. While I don't love a lot of the design choices here, I would still love to play more of this game if its biggest, most obvious problems were fixed, and if the game was technically finished. I want Battlefield 2042 to succeed, and that's why I think a delay is a good idea. Give DICE another 6 months with this. Let them fix what's broken, and then let them polish it to a brilliant shine. Let them fix the UI, let them rework the specialist system, and while we're at it, let's dose those AI bots with a few IQ points. Let's add in those missing features that previous Battlefield games had. Nobody wants Battlefield 2042 to launch poorly. Everyone would love to see a great Battlefield. I think more time in the oven is required to make that happen, and I personally don't mind waiting as long as it takes. For now though, I definitely wouldn't be pre-ordering Battlefield 2042 if I were you. One last thing before we go, this video is brought to you by Nvidia and the MSI GS76 LT laptop. This laptop is truly next gen because it has the latest 30 series GPU built in, meaning you get all the benefits of the latest GPU hardware in portable form. What are those benefits, you ask? Well, obviously, the raw processing power in Nvidia's 30 series cards is unmatched, delivering you the best frame rates and resolutions on the market today. In addition to that, you also get ray tracing, which is a technique that simulates light using an algorithm, resulting in the most realistic rendition of light we've seen in video games. Upcoming games like Guardians of the Galaxy, Battlefield 2042, and Dying Light 2 all support ray tracing, and this laptop lets you experience that next-gen feature. The most impressive tech is another utilized by Battlefield 2042, and it's called DLSS, which stands for Deep Learning Super Sampling. What this does is it renders your game at a lower resolution while making it look like it's running at a higher resolution, giving your GPU more headroom to spend on higher graphical settings and frame rates. A great example was when I tested DLSS on Outriders. I picked up an average of around 40 frames. That's a very big increase. Pair that with the laptop's 360Hz screen and you can expect a silky smooth experience even when the action is thickest. In addition to the sleek design, each MSI GS76 laptop comes equipped with their signature Cooler Boost Trinity system, a dedicated set of thermal solutions that ensure low temperatures and maximum performance no matter what you're playing or for how long. Gaming laptops aren't the giant bricks they used to be. They're smaller, thinner, lighter, and more portable than ever before. To learn more about Nvidia's next-gen GPUs or the MSI GS76 laptop, click the link in the description below. Thanks Nvidia and MSI for sponsoring the video, and thank you for watching it. Thanks for watching my video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down so I know to do better for next time. If you enjoyed yourself, consider subscribing, and if you really enjoyed yourself, maybe consider hitting that notification bell so you never miss a video. You can see my patrons here on the left. They're awesome. They're amazing. If you want to join them, check out my Patreon page. Thank you again. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.